You're listening to She's the Business podcast. You already know that many online experts and thought leaders write books in order to have a really great lead magnet tool for their business. But the thing is, not all books actually turn into an asset once they've been published. So what's the difference between a book that is marketable and a book that does actually support your business, bring you in leads and clients, and a book that gathers dust on the shelf? Well, we're diving into that discussion today, so stay tuned. No doubt you're going to learn something new that you had not known before in the realm of book writing. Stay tuned, it's coming right up. Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and over the last 25 years in marketing and business, I've helped many brands to launch, scale, and grow, with some of them becoming multi-billion-dollar companies. I'm here to inspire you to get out of your own way and create a profitable, fulfilling business while living the lifestyle you really desire, without all the hustle. So I bring you She's the Business podcast, a unique blend of strategies, tactics, mindset, health, and spirituality, literally everything you need to be the successful leader of your dream business. Made by women for women, this is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration. My very special guest joining me today on the podcast to talk all about publishing a book that is a business building tool is Melanie Herschorn, and she's a book marketing and publishing strategist, works with attorneys and business owners, consultants, and speakers. She's really on a mission to support and empower clients to share their message with the world through a beautifully published book. She has a great background of experience as a celebrity publicist, an award-winning journalist, longtime entrepreneur. So clearly she knows her stuff in the world of words. And Melanie actually has her own book that she doesn't mention in this interview, but it is called Make a Big Impact with Your Book. And this book is available now. So clearly she has a book about making an impact with a book. So yes, it's very meta, very appropriate. And if you're interested in what she shares with you and you're really thinking about, maybe this is something I'm interested in for my own business, then no doubt her book would be a great place to start. So you'll find the link to that in the show notes. And without further ado, let me play this interview for you. Hello, and I'm here with the lovely Melanie Herschorn from Big Impact Books. Welcome, Melanie. I'm so excited to have you here on the podcast today.
Thank you, Jess. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, we were having a little chat before I hit record, and I understand that you've really recently rebranded your business, but I'd love to hear a bit more about what it is that you do in Big Impact Books. Who do you serve, and how did you get into it? Like, I'm curious about a bit of the backstory.
Okay, well, I wish I could say this was a super linear thing. Like one day I graduated college and then I became a publisher. No, not even close. But you can see how I said college, and that's a very American thing to say. Mm-hmm. But I grew up in Canada. I should have said university, but I digress. And I know in Australia you say uni, so I digress. So how I came to be doing what I'm doing is pretty circuitous. I am now a publisher and book marketing strategist, and I help attorneys and business owners write, publish, and market books to really build their brand with something that is a legacy piece, but it's something that is going to serve them for years to come. Mm-hmm. And I started out in celebrity PR in Hollywood.
Oh, wow.
And then I got a master's in journalism, and I worked as a radio news anchor and reporter. I was laid off when I was 5 months pregnant. And then I went, oh, great. Now what? I am unemployed and unemployable. That was definitely one of those turning points. Mm-hmm. I did work freelance at a newspaper for a year after that, but then we moved to a different state. We moved from Pennsylvania to Arizona, and I had to start again. So I thought, well, I could pay a nanny or a babysitter or daycare more money than I'll make as a journalist, or I could do something else. And I had this idea: design and manufacture breastfeeding clothing.
Oh, wow. Quite different.
So,
Do something totally different, but very needed and relevant. Yeah, relevant at that point of time in your life as well.
Definitely, totally. So I did that for 7 years. I sold my clothes on department store at Nordstrom.com and on Amazon and in boutiques in North America. And then around year 7, I hired somebody to help me with my marketing, and she was toxic. It was bad. She would say to me, "Gosh, Melanie, are you sure you have a master's degree? You are just so boring when you write." And,
ouch.
Yes, ouch. And I guess, when you water on a stone, it starts to wear it down. And so after a year of this, I closed the business and I said, I can't do this anymore. I need to do something else. So I took some time. Not much time, because I don't like to have grass growing under my feet. And I thought, what can I do now? And I looked at the through line, I should say, of my career. And it's always been to give voice to people who maybe weren't using it or who maybe felt like they didn't have the ability to amplify their voice. And so marketing then led to publishing, and it makes so much sense because I get to help people take their story and share it and make a difference in their own lives and others with it.
Yes, that's amazing. And also incredible to have somebody telling you that you're boring and specifically around how you write, but then to actually take that and have that inner strength to start a business where it's based on writing, which obviously is what you're great at. So, really commend you for that, because I think so many people would have taken that to heart, even though there was someone working for you and clearly less experienced than you in all of those areas. But words do have an impact, don't they? So I really wanted to commend you for that, because that just shows such incredible inner strength. It's amazing. And I so relate to the story of you starting a business that's like totally different and just relevant to life. I had a funny, just total side note tangent, but relatable story, because my first business I started at the time I was getting married, because I was like, why is it so difficult to buy a wedding dress? Like, I do not want to have to go into all of these shops and make an appointment to see the dresses I don't even know if I'm going to like. And it was like this, like, you're killing me. This is so difficult. Why can't I buy or look at, really nice dresses online? And there was just nothing at that time. This is back in 2010. And so I started, I do not sew, but I started a wedding dress business, like online business, where, it was about custom made wedding dresses. And I had people who did sew, who made them. But I was like, it's so random. I'm not even that into weddings or dresses. I just had a massive pain point that I felt at the time, and had a business that I did for about 7 years. So yeah, interesting, right?
That is that's so relatable. And it's necessity is the mother of invention. And so obviously you have that entrepreneurial spirit, and it lives strong within you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting that I see you then came back to your real value and expertise. Likewise, I did the same, but it's so interesting to have had that experience. And then I now want to talk about what you do now, because I have a few questions around it. So one of the things that stood out to me when you said about who you serve with books is attorneys, which is, fairly specific, being lawyers, and then business owners. And that's obviously broad. So I'm curious about, what is it specifically about attorneys that make them, an ideal client or a key client for you? And I guess I just hadn't thought about attorneys and books in that way before, of them being someone who would write books. And then also, what sort of business owners, because that's so kind of broad, who is it really that you feel like is it the type of person? Is it the stage that they're at? What kind of stories are we sharing? And I've just given you about 10 questions to answer. So I'm sorry. We'll start at the beginning.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault. I have, sometimes when people ask me one question, I forget. So I'm really hopeful I will answer.
That's okay. I can ask again.
So to answer the first question, why attorneys? It kind of gelled with me that I could really help them when I had a meeting with an attorney who had just written a book. And he was telling me it was a disaster from start to finish. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, that shouldn't happen. And that shouldn't happen. And, all these things shouldn't happen. There's a lot of predatory behavior in the publishing industry. Mm. So unfortunately, he fell prey to that. Mm-hmm. And so I said, but she was really onto something.
Yeah.
And it really inspired me because I had a family member who had gone through a pretty messy divorce. And I really thought that everything that I watch on television and everything I see in movies is how the law works. If there's a bad guy, he doesn't get the kids.
Yeah.
But in this case, the bad guy still got the kids. And I went, if I don't know this, then I know there are other people who don't know this. And then I started doing some market research and talking to attorneys. And it's amazing what you can learn from an attorney. And they think that what they're talking about is just so boring and that everybody knows it. And it's not.
No.
It's not boring. And not everybody knows it. I mean, I'm going to give you an example. And of course, where you live, the laws are different than where I live. Mm-hmm. But common law marriage, for example. Do you know what the rules on common law marriage are?
No idea.
But do you think you know them?
I don't know.
What have you? Like, if people live together for a certain amount of time, then it's considered common law marriage.
Okay.
Right? Is that what you heard?
Yeah,
but that's not right. But that's what everybody here thinks.
Right. Okay.
And I had a full hour-long conversation with an attorney about what we think and what it is in reality. So then I realized, I can really help them bridge that gap. Because when you have a book, you are now instantly credible. You are proving your authority. And it is such a great lead generator because you can send it out to people and then they already know, like, and trust you before they even get on a sales call.
Yeah. So interesting.
Now to answer, I remember the other questions about business owners. So yes. So the reason I say and business owners is because I mostly help attorneys, but there are always going to be people who say, I'm an attorney, but I want to start a new business. Or I have, I have a coaching business and I really want to write a book. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to say no to somebody if the parameters that if they fit into the parameters, which are, yes, they have an established business. Mm-hmm. And they see that the missing thing for them, the missing piece for credibility, for all this fun, stuff about building your authority, is that they don't have a book. Mm-hmm. They see that they should have a book so they can open up more stages. They want to get more media opportunities, things like that come to authors. So they have to have a viable business that they've been doing for 5 years or more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's great. So the other part of it is somebody who, they're in business, and let's just, because it's easy to frame it around attorneys, and that's a great place to have all these, the visualization of what this means kind of coming from. So they're in business, and when is a good time for them to think about writing a book? Like, at what point is somebody ready to say, right, well, I've really got something to share, and I have, because, yeah, I guess I'll start with that question. I won't go on with 5 more. I'll save them. So what is a good time?
Good time. Oh, and thank you because my brain, I do my best. A good time is when they realize that they have been repeating the same answers to questions for a very long time now. And wouldn't it be great if they could actually have a physical, a tangible product that they could share with people and leverage their time a bit better?
Right. That's really great. So I guess and this is my marketer's brain probably switching on straight away, because I'm straight into the detail of like, well, people don't tend to know that they don't know that what they think about the law is wrong until they actually then need to know it or discover it. So they're already in whatever situation is happening when they're starting to find out that, oh, it's not what I thought, it's something else, and now I'm in trouble, and now I need an attorney or whatever. So I guess what was curious to me is, like, it's a very specific timeline in a client's life, or, you know, with the attorney-client relationship. It's like they're needing to know the stuff that's in the book, but they don't even know that they need to know it until they need it, which is when they're just like, I need you right now. So is it like that initial, okay, I'm looking for an attorney to help me in this area. They find someone who has a book, and it's almost like a quick first step to read some of the stuff that they've said about it. So you're thinking, should I go with this person or keep looking for someone else? Is that what we're looking at here?
Yes. And because there are a lot of different kinds of attorneys, if we're going to talk about like the personal injury attorneys, they really, for them, it's more of a numbers game. So somebody who's been hurt in a car accident isn't going to sit and write a book and decide.
Exactly.
Not that I'm laughing at their misfortune, just that I'm laughing at the idea of them having to read a book to decide who they're going to work with. So it's more for, you know, attorneys who work with business owners, attorneys who are in family law. So things that are longer time frames. You know, as entrepreneurs, when we realize we probably should have our IP covered, and we don't realize that, you know, it was like, oh, I didn't trademark my business name or whatever. And if you're reading a book from an IP attorney who talks about why you should do it and how you should do it, then you might say, oh, I'm ready to do it. I'm going to call them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And so tell me a bit about, because I know you mentioned you love to help them tell their stories. What's the sort of, because I'm kind of seeing there's the information and their knowledge and the big knowledge gap that they kind of can fill with a book. But then I'm interested to hear about the stories and the personal part of that. How do they merge together into one book, or are they 2 different styles of books that you help them to write?
So I'll give you an example. I have a client who wrote a really great how-to book. And I read through the first draft and I said, this is a manual. We need stories. Stories about you, stories about clients, of course, changing information. But stories are how we remember things, how we learn. And so it can be, you know, maybe it's an attorney who became an attorney because of something they experienced in their childhood. Well, share about that, because that's relatability. That's that helps you become memorable. So it may be a how-to, but you need to infuse it with stories about you and about your experiences. And so when I sent it back and I said, insert story here, 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 he sent it back, and now it's a book. It's not like your DVD player manual anymore.
Yeah.
Which, who has a DVD player anymore anyway. I almost said VCR.
That's so funny. I totally get what you mean. And yes, stories. I can think of so many books where, really, I guess the framework of the book was information, but it was explained through stories. And the bits I remember are the stories. And, you actually you often remember them in quite a lot of detail because that was how it landed for you. Like, okay, now I get it and understand it because I heard the story. And what a great way to remember that information. Better than a bullet point or a paragraph or whatever it was.
I mean, you repeat a bullet point or a paragraph in your brain over and over, but it's just not going to sink in the way a story does. So then so all of that goes into a book, but then also before they even start writing, our goal is to make it marketable. So we're sort of reverse engineering, what is going to be a really great marketing plan for your book so that it works for you. Because there are, I sort of briefly touched on the predatory stuff, and it's unfortunately real. I too sort of fell prey to it. I had started working with a publisher to publish my book. And I was reading on my iPad, fun story. I can't read actual books at night because my husband doesn't like it when I have a light on. So I read on my Kindle app. And I'm reading a book. I don't know which one. And I get to the end of the page and I realize that I haven't read a single word because I've been in my head. What am I thinking about? And I realized I don't trust this publisher. I'd already paid them to publish my book and I didn't trust them. So once I acknowledged that in my conscious mind, I was able to sleep and I woke up the next morning and I got out and I published my own book shortly thereafter. And the reason I didn't trust them was there were a lot of promises. We're going to do this and we're going to do that and we're going to get you editing and this. But there's a lot of crap that gets put out online. And I wanted my book to look professional and really, be on brand. And so that's something that I help my clients do. It's very important for it to, when you open it up, for it to look excellent.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I feel like I got myself off on a tangent now.
We were talking about your book being marketable and
marketable, yes.
That's okay.
Right. So all that to say, you wanted to there are a lot of publishers. Thank you. Now I remember. Sorry, it's been a very long day already. There are a lot of publishers who will say, all you need to do is publish a book and it's going to change your life. And I disagree with that because if you publish a book and nobody knows about it, it's going to just make you really sad and maybe make you feel bad about yourself. But if you publish a book and you have a marketing plan attached to it and you know how to leverage your book to grow your brand, that's where the magic is.
Yeah. I am so glad that you brought that up because I don't think we see quite as much here as what you see in the States, but I think a lot of people get sold the dream of just publish a book and it's going to give you authority and all this. And I'm like, only if people see it and only if they're reading it. And so, when we actually just tear apart those curtains and look what's behind, it's like, it's not going to work for everybody and in every state that you're in, not state physically in a state in the country, but as in like the stage of business. Like if you have no audience and you write a book, well, who's going to see it and how are you going to get that out there? It will become a great tool, obviously, in time because you can build that audience, but it's like you can't expect it to be this overnight thing. Like, great, I've published a book, bang, where are all the, where are all my speaking engagements and where are all the sales and the other things come from it, because it doesn't really work like that way. But I think that so often the dream is such a strong one, like how many of us grew up as children. Like I love books. I read books all the time as a kid. And, I think we all, well, I'm going to say a lot of people harbored like a secret desire one day to write their own book, even as a child, right? So I think that can overshadow or mask some of the questions that maybe we should be asking or looking at. So I'm so glad you brought that up, because I was going to ask next, well, thinking about your attorneys and lawyers and like, right, we're going to write a book, but it needs to be marketable. I'd love to get into what does that really mean? Because I'm sure that there's multiple things they could write on. There's multiple things, topics. How do you guide them on selecting the right topic for their book that's actually going to become an asset for them in terms of a lead generation tool and help them to, be seen with authority? Because I don't think it's just as simple as picking a topic and doing a book, right?
No, right. To everything you said before, preach to everything you said. That dream that people prey on it.
Yeah.
So yes, we are totally tearing back the curtain.
Love it.
So to talk about what to write about. So I often say, let's start with the low hanging fruit. We don't have to overcomplicate things, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are the top 10 things that people ask you that all the time and you find yourself answering all the time? It's funny. I was doing a talk last week and this woman she said, she was absolutely literal with me. She said, does it have to be 10? Because I think I only have 7. I said, no, I'm so glad you said that, because there are no rules.
Yep.
There are no rules. I just say 10, but it could be 3 and it could be 7. And the reason I like 10 is because 10 is a great number of chapters. Plop in an intro, plop on a finale, and there you go. There's a book. Mm-hmm. It's not that cut and dry, but so start with that. And think about who you are serving. Who is your audience? What do they need to know about you and from you? How can you serve them so that they are informed to make a great buying decision when they are ready to buy from you? So, fun fact, when I published my book, this lady with a book blog reached out and said, hey, can I review your book? And I was like, how do you even know I wrote one? Okay, great. Yeah, sure. So I was like, wow, that's cool. Somebody I don't know asked to review my book. Well, it wasn't that cool. About 3 months later, I happened to be scrolling Facebook and I saw my book on a post. And I went, what? Okay. So I clicked on it and it was a review of my book and it was not very nice.
Oh dear.
I mean, this woman tore my book apart and then she tore me apart too.
Oh.
I've never met her. I don't even remember her name. But after spending about 10 minutes sobbing in my car, I thought about it deeply and I went, well, her biggest critique was that my book is meant to drive business. And I thought, but that's exactly what it's supposed to do. So the joke's on her, I guess. Because when you write a book, you can write a book where you tell a story and then hope to sell copies. You can write a book where you are informing people, giving value, but also looking to grow your business. Mm-hmm. And so that's the kind of book that I help people write unapologetically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they're still giving great value. It still took me 2 years to write the book.
Yeah.
And I know that there's really great value in it. And yes, there are calls to action, because what kind of person in marketing would I be if I didn't take my own advice? So so what you want to write